We did it! You made it to the end. Congratulations. Uh, so this is the final video of this series. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And today we're basically going to wrap up. So we're going to kind of move through head, heart, hands. We'll do the conclusion, which is kind of an intellectual recap of all the spaces we've been in. Uh, I'll share the epilogue, which is, what's in my heart around e pluribus unum, the central spiritual task that the United States performs on behalf of all humans, or could, and should, and will. And then the hands, so the appendices. So, like, what are the actual details of like how you do this personally, organizationally? Um, and I'll end with the acknowledgments, another heart piece of all the people who've supported me and helped me on this journey. So I'm so full of gratitude. So I'm beginning my pies check-in. So physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and I invite you to do this with me. You can also, I also encourage you to do it with someone dear to you. So physically, I am sore. I did this body combat class at the Y yesterday, and woo! It's like all these hooks and uppercuts and doing tons of them like really fast. So all of these muscles that I never use because I don't punch people as much anymore, or I don't punch anyone other than my heavy bag. But yeah, so physically, like everything from lower back to ankles to shoulders, all very sore. Intellectually invigorated. Um, Read the opening salvo to it's called the progressive ferment, and it's basically kind of like a 4 or 5 page history of the period between like 1890 and 1915 of the United States, and conditions are freaking eerily similar. I mean, division, anti-immigrant stuff, massive income inequality. Everyone's pissed. Businesses run amok. But what was hopeful was that the Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt administration, and I think Wilson, who followed him, they really took action. They actually reformulated the government in several critical ways. So obviously the antitrust stuff, but rejiggered the Senate. So it's possible. We do this on occasion. We say, listen, our current system doesn't work. It's not a match for who we are. And that's I think the broad kind of theme that we're a part of right now. We're waking up and starting to move from denial to depression. And yes, we don't want to stay there. We don't want to hurt ourselves or hurt others. But it's actually a good thing that we're like, oh man, I didn't realize all these crises are happening. What Otto Scharmer calls the polycrisis. Um, and it's overwhelming because most folks, myself included, do not have a liberal arts education, do not understand society, economics, politics, and it all seems so overwhelming. So more and more of us are waking up, and it's really bumming us out. But that's the piece. Like, we have to get there first to say, okay, well, clearly we all want the same thing. We all want to be related to each other, to flourish, all that good stuff. And our institutions, private, public, are no longer a match for our current reality. We're a lot bigger, we're more diverse, and we've got way more problems. I think about my parents' generation, so the boomers. What did they have to deal with? Sexism and racism and the Cold War. And those occurred to them, I guess, later, like anti-nuclear stuff and peace movements. But we've got like 30 times as many crises. So I'm Gen X. than my parents had. Um, and our government fulfilled, you know, did a pretty good job with a lot of the crises of the 60s and 70s, but we can't do it now with this government. So that's their, like I said, emotionally very grateful. I'm grateful that we've been doing this thing together, having this conversation. Granted, it's one-sided, but it's been very fulfilling for me. And also, and this kind of blends into spiritual, I reread this essay by Otto Scharmer today and then signed up for ULab. So if you haven't checked out ULab, check it out, because it's kind of how it's about the inner capacities we need to fulfill on and make sense of, to make sense of the world and fulfill on really what's true, what's uniquely human, the great spiritual tasks, the purposes of our communities, organizations, nations, planet. So, yeah, I'm spiritually very excited. I just said yes to something that's going to transform me. And I'm also gaining more and more spiritual clarity around how much time and energy I've invested in the Mankind Project, an amazing organization that's served me well for 17 years. I don't think I'll ever stop going to a men's circle, but all the other stuff that I do, like leadership track and staffing weekends and all that. So I'll be rebalancing the portfolio of my transformation work. So I'm in. Please pause the video, do this for yourself, or better yet, share it with someone dear to you. So we are going to begin with the conclusion, then the epilogue, the appendices, and the acknowledgments. Conclusion. Without the bison's guidance, the eagle will continue to desecrate all we hold dear. It entrenches political gridlock, hatred, inequality, and violence, and makes it impossible to respond to our escalating crises that are democratic, biological, psychological, ecological, economic, and cultural. Without the bison, the eagle will continue to segregate our communities, siphon wealth into the coffers of the already wealthy, defund our healthcare, education, and infrastructure, and imperil our ability to co-lead the world's interdependent economy and ecology. Guided by the bison, we recognize that we are stewards of our organization's soul and our national renewal. Guided by the bison, we acknowledge that diversity is our strength. Purpose is a human right. And a journey of reckoning, repair, and redemption is our nation's spiritual path. The workplace is where we congregate to serve and empower others, to activate our unique purpose, fulfill our potential, nurture community, and achieve our mission. We bring the spirit of the bison home with us and let it guide our family and civic life. In so doing, we activate the purpose of this nation, repair the damage from our past, and achieve redemption. To claim our role as leaders in healing the soul of the nation, we have to soberly meet our past and present as it is. Adopt the bison as a symbol of our leadership and nation. Understand the stakes of this perilous moment. So that's what we did in chapter 3, like culture. We're about to go to civil war. That's what's at stake. Rehumanize our organizations with an ethos of communal and holistic care. Make thorough use of the two most powerful tools at our disposal: purpose activation and small, diverse group learning. And deploy the key elements of transformation while listening and attending to our people's needs and the emerging needs in the market with agility. A brief summary. Sobriety. In chapter 1, we explored business as a religion, villain, and savior, and learned that all the harms of white supremacy are maintained by our collective efforts. Leaders must soberly meet this reality as it is, and also acknowledge the enormous power of business, and then take responsibility to steward our culture towards the collective good and national renewal. Symbol. In Chapter 2, we confronted the sad truth that our nation's soul is gasping for breath. The hyper-individualism of the eagle is dehumanizing, dividing, dominating, and dispossessing us faster by the day. A new symbol must now guide us as leaders and as a nation into the next chapter of our shared story, the bison. Stakes. In Chapter 3, we face the cultural consequences of the eagle. The continued dissolution of our democratic institutions, decline of our social and emotional health, fraying of the social fabric and public trust, and the increasing likelihood of racially and politically motivated violence. Care. In Chapter 4, we explored a rehumanized vision of key people functions, weaving the ethics of the bison into every aspect of the employee experience and each people function, from L&D, DEI, wellness, talent, culture. Tools. In Chapter 5, we examined purpose and belonging as the foundational individual and organizational as the foundation of individual and organizational health, and learned that purpose activation in small, diverse learning groups is an effective and scalable methodology for change. So, more importantly, it's a blunt instrument. So, yes, it gets at the core capacities of a bison-led culture and a bison-led leadership, but it's going to hit all of your people priorities. We already talked about this, like productivity, leadership development, retention, DEI, wellness, social emotional health. Like, it's do this. If you're going to do anything, do this. I'm not saying take down your intranet. I'm not saying, withdraw your employee assistance program. But stop focusing on these individual interventions. We have a systemic issue. Purpose and belonging is going to help us fix that issue. Which brings me to agility. In Chapter 6, we explored the 6 elements to evolve our organization, consecrate our purpose, and meet the needs of our people and the emerging world. We learned we cannot afford to analyze, debate, and wait. We are not able to figure it all out in advance. Like I shared earlier, we have 30 times as many problems as the boomers have. 30. You're not smart enough. You're smart. You're good at stuff. But you're not smart enough to solve 30 global crises that are not only impacting the planet and the nation, but your organization. You just admit it. You're not smart enough. You've got to activate everybody. So we must move. And now. Don't miss this moment. National renewal depends on the leadership of business. We have the tools, elements, and a good enough plan to take the next step. Activate employee purpose and belonging. Again, do it now. Do not wait. Trust that the hearts and minds of your people will rise to the challenge. As Anne Frank shared, and I saw this on a plaque in Birmingham, Alabama on the Civil Rights Walk. Quote, "How wonderful is it that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world." I forget how old she was, but she was like 9. And she got it. We get it. Let's do it. Let's stop sitting on our thumbs, people. Come on. Everything we hold sacred depends on it. The nation needs you. Your children and grandchildren are asking you. And the world is watching. So that completes the conclusion. Epilogue. "This is our nation," I said to myself as tears flooded my eyes. It was a warm summer evening, the kind I fondly remember from my youth in the Midwest. A moment of liminal expanse, of kairos, of being beyond normal time and part of eternity. A place in between places, a place between playing tag and lightning bugs, between hot dogs and ice cream. Was there scotch and ice in my tumbler that night? Yes. Did I eat a couple mushrooms before I left the house? You betcha. The veil, as they say, was thin. My eyes softened, and the sinews of my environs came into view, with diversity, goodwill, connection, and creative self-expression. I felt a sense of oneness and jubilance. I was witness to a nation's promise. From many one, all of us created equal. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Was this the beloved community Dr. King foresaw? Was this what Maslow experienced among the Blackfoot people? So fireworks don't do it for me. The Pledge of Allegiance does not stir my soul. What stirs my soul and evokes national pride is our national parks, justice, equity, and people from all walks showing up fully and treating each other with dignity and care. What stirs my soul is compassion, beauty, prosperity, and fraternity. It's creativity and service. It's coming together around shared values and across differences. That is what seized me that night. So I was at a local festival called First Friday, when Oakland's art galleries are open. It's Oakland, California, the San Francisco Bay Area. And the street is filled with bands, vendors, fashion shows, stand-up comedians, dance troupes, drum circles, political movements, spiritual communities, nonprofits, and DJ booths. In a sense, First Friday is like any other street fair in the United States. Folks of all ages, flirting, summer dresses, laughter, sweat, fried things on sticks. And yet, it is like no other. Because of Oakland's diversity and culture of openness, friendships and romance flourished across lines of racial identity. Because of the Bay Area's natural beauty, public transportation, affordable health care, and relatively inexpensive housing. Oakland, it's expensive in the Bay, but Oakland's a lot cheaper. Oakland has the fertile conditions for our nation's soul to take form. So how did this happen? As technology gained a strong hold in the Bay Area during the late 1990s, rents skyrocketed, sending San Francisco's diverse artists, activists, and intellectuals to the east. Because the East Bay was separated by water and perceived to be far more dangerous, it is more dangerous, and less hip than San Francisco, white yuppies largely ignored it. So the East Bay became this little secret with incredible weather, so it's significantly warmer than San Francisco. Food, music, hiking, culture, diversity, community, bike lanes, great public transit, and relatively cheap rent. Perhaps due to the progressive influence of the University of California, Berkeley, we held this golden age or place lightly, mindful of the numerous injustices that made it possible. From the genocide of the Ohlone and the Miwok, to the three strikes laws that sent a generation of BIPOC folks to prison for nonviolent offenses, which basically that three strikes law like emptied out the East Bay. So prices came down, black communities were decimated, Hispanic communities decimated, and a bunch of white folks moved in. I was one of them. And of course, the secret is now out. As a result, rents have doubled since 2012 when I moved there. And there are Google buses and startups. Victorians are being cleared out for condos. And because of accelerating climate change, the annual fire season turns the Bay Area into an unbreathable post-apocalyptic hellscape. At the time I lived there, from 2012 to 2018, however, it was magical. It seemed like everyone was up to something, contributing to the common good. It felt like most folks, regardless of race or class, were actively committed to something larger than themselves. So, in some sense of the word, like, so many folks were on purpose. They're like, this needs to happen. Whether it's art, justice, Some were involved in racial, economic, and environmental justice efforts. Some were deepening their cultural traditions. Some were developing their art. Some were leading their Burning Man camps. Some were experimenting with novel sexual endeavors and relationship statuses. Some were devoted to personal and spiritual development. And some were launching community gardens, fashion brands, religions, maker spaces, intentional communities, and political movements. And some folks were like me that night, just absolutely in awe. I became present to this cornucopia of brilliance that night. The magic of human creativity, flourishing, and connection, purpose, empathy, and inclusion, interracial romance, a sense that nothing stands in the way of our dreams. It felt like freedom in its most original and radical sense. So freedom comes from the Indo-European word frya, F-R-Y-A, meaning beloved, and from the Old English word freod, F-R-E-O-D, meaning affection, love, and peace. Connected and empowered, bound and creative, to be accepted wholly and completely, to claim one's destiny, and to dream impossible futures. This freedom is possible when an economy and culture A ensures that basic needs are secure and or guaranteed as a right, like living wages, affordable housing, healthy food, public transit, Obamacare, covered California. And B makes people from all backgrounds feel safe and wanted and empowers them to flourish. This foundation of freedom makes it possible to pursue one's purpose. This is a freedom bound to the covenants of our unique souls. It's the freedom to be your highest self, to be the fullest expression of your unique purpose in relationship to the world. As we would say in the East Bay, to let your freak flag fly. Like, we just go for it. This freedom comes from connection to your soul, to your craft, your people, your earth, and the future for which you stand. It's the liberation of knowing what you are for and to whom you belong. It's the permission to care for and contribute to others, knowing that others will care for and contribute to you. It's the freedom to be wholly yourself, loving each and every one of your imperfections. So I'm going to pause here for a second. A couple days ago, I was talking with a CEO who's also spent a lot of time at Burning Man on the Playa, as have I. And what we were reflecting on is how deeply the principles of Burning Man have shaped us off the Playa. And the Bay Area being very close to Burning Man, so Burning Man is north of Reno right now. A very large percentage of the Bay Area has been at least once, and a smaller percentage goes all the time. So it's like this experimental culture that then comes back to San Francisco, the East Bay, really the whole Bay Area, and says, well, what could we actually do here? Given all this weird, cool, awesome stuff we experience out there, what can we do here? So there was this sense of possibility rooted in these principles of Burning Man, which are around like radical responsibility. So being responsible for yourself and others, radical self-expression, like really letting it fly, like uninhibited. And I won't go into detail on how that shows up. It's for a story for another time. So the East Bay, because the rents were lower, there was also a greater sense of permanence. Whereas like San Francisco is pretty transient. People kind of cycle in and out every few years. But the East Bay is a place where people actually stay. So all that stuff gets to stay and bounce around each other. And new systems and new ideas and new ways for meeting human needs and creating things becomes the culture. So that's what I mean. It's like, it's a place like no other. And the word has gotten out, obviously. So this was the freedom I experienced in the East Bay. There, it is common for folks to do inner work, have a sense of who they are, and build community with others who have as well. They are cared for and connected to each other. They get wild, experiment, make mistakes, clean them up, and learn to do it better next time. In my time living and working among the professional class in Chicago, New York, LA, and San Francisco, I didn't observe these freedoms. I witnessed and participated in a more heartless rendering of freedom, the freedoms of detachment, not my problem. Depersonalization, it's just business. Dehumanization, the world needs ditch diggers too, and debauchery, more of everything. We lived from the neck up as eagles, working the angles, trading gossip on hot startups, unicorn stocks, cheap real estate, and other forms of Machiavellian comeuppance. My experience of people living in the East Bay was radically different. There was compassion, rootedness, attachment, and connection. Folks were centered in their hearts, connected to what broke their hearts and the world they were creating. We experienced what Heather McGee describes as a solidarity dividend, the prosperity and fulfillment that results from realizing our bonds to each other and working for a future that is greater than the sum of us, which is the title of her book. This is what it means to fulfill our national purpose. Everyone has what they need to flourish, to discover and activate the purpose, to build community with their diverse peers, to feel safe, wanted, and connected to a larger mission. They unlock a sense of fulfillment and belonging that they bring home to their families and communities. Insofar as business is a sandbox for the activation of purpose and belonging, it is a force for the greater economic, social, environmental, cultural, and national good. And insofar as it isn't, it continues to desecrate it. Let us choose the bright, connected, creative, and abundant path. Let us ignite purpose and belonging at scale. Imagine the 20 largest employers in your area paying living wages, activating purpose and belonging in their workforce. Imagine the increase in productivity, fulfillment, inclusion, leadership effectiveness, innovation, and tenure. Imagine the resulting prosperity and tax revenues that would flow into our diverse communities. Imagine the quality of our public schools, clean energy, mass transit, healthcare that could be available because of this expanded tax base, and enhanced ability to issue municipal bonds and invest in public works. Imagine police not murdering anyone ever again. No more George Floyd. But instead, public safety is reimagined and centers mental health, de-escalation, and conflict resolution. Imagine a deep regard and respect for all of life, enjoying soulful camaraderie, creativity, curiosity, celebration as the foundation of our public life. Imagine engaging in intellectually sober, civil, and empathetic political discourse. Imagine our twin genocides healed and repaired. Imagine all of us sleeping well. Imagine your kids and grandkids respecting what you do for a living and seeing what you stand for in this world. Imagine all the fun possibilities now at our fingertips. All of this and more is available to you, your company, your community, and your country. We have the knowledge, tools, and resources. Help isn't coming from anywhere else. It's on us. We can and we must rebuild. When we activate our purpose and belonging at work, we become a nation. So that concludes the epilogue. I mean, I don't know how many different ways I can say it. Just fucking do it already. Like, what are you waiting for? It doesn't cost much. It doesn't take much time. Everybody wins. People win, your organization wins, the nation wins. Just do it. Or don't. And live with that guilt. Okay. Sorry. I'm guessing you could feel my frustration when I'm waving my hand all day, all night. Hey, hey, I have the thing that everybody needs, and I have to convince you that you need it. Like, I don't want to put that on you, but that's what came out just now. I'm like, come on, it's right there. It's like, all right, I'm gonna keep going. It's like choosing to remain ignorant when Wikipedia is right frickin' there. Like you don't need. Yeah, I get it. I like people's moral center of gravity, their intuitive reasoning, their identity is rooted in a group, and if an idea is threatening to that group's identity, they're not going to explore it. And I'm lucky enough that my group's identity encourages intellectual exploration, so it's not an issue for me. But come on, business, just crack a book. If you're if you made it this far, please share this thing. Please get it out to everybody you can. Share it with your alumni networks, professional communities. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Just be like, hey, this book rocked. It meant a lot to me. Here's what I got out of it. Here's the link. You can watch it, listen to it for free, or you buy it if you want, if you prefer an ebook or a physical copy. Okay. I'm sorry. Sorry for the shaming and frustration. All right. Appendix A, Purpose Activation Resources. So what this appendix is just a brief treatment of all the stuff out there that you can implement to bring greater purpose awareness to yourself and others. So we begin with a quote by Arthur Clayton Brock. Quote, "We cannot become ourselves by ourselves." End quote. It is impossible to discover, embody, and activate one's purpose alone. I've never seen it happen. Nobody ever had an aha and then changed their life completely by themselves. Nobody ever picked up a book, did an exercise, and instantly became purpose activated. No matter how powerful the dispatch from your soul, it cannot be activated unless there is a significant measure of reflection, sharing, and integration in key areas of life. So your career, love, health, home. What I mean is like receiving the reflection, sharing it with others, integrating it, taking actions. So it's a social and active process. It's not just self-reflective and aha. This is because purpose is not a piece of missing information or a problem to solve. It's not a journal exercise or a strategic plan or a 5-day challenge or an app or a matter of pure will. The brain cannot figure it out because it isn't a matter of the brain. It's a revelation and a matter of the soul that needs witnessing, nature, movement, creativity, structure, reflection, spaciousness, feedback from trusted friends and family, and really good questions. As such, to fully activate your purpose, please explore the following approaches by 1. Working with a trained purpose coach one-on-one, or 2. A friend, colleague, or mentor who has completed their own purpose journey, or 3. In community with other people who are also committed to discovering and activating their purpose. So I'm going to talk about each of those, kind of the pros, cons, what you can expect. Number 1, work one-on-one with a purpose coach. So you and a coach spending a few months together. The benefit of working with a trained purpose coach is that they can get you through the process more effectively and quickly by attuning to where you are in your journey and structuring experiences that are tailored to your unique development. This is especially important with respect to transforming your inner voices. So these are the parts of you that are not your soul or your purpose, but the personality structure. So critic, skeptic, risk manager, image consultant, wounded child. So I'm speaking to the voices that Tim Kelly, my friend, colleague, fleshes out in his book, True Purpose. And their job is to try to protect you, but they're doing that by obscuring or resisting or sabotaging your purpose, because they want to keep you they want to keep you stuck, basically. Like, keep the wheels on the bus, retire, die. Because that's how they understand right now, without a purpose process. That's how they understand what's good for you. But what's actually good for you is for them to relate to your purpose or your soul and to do the soul's bidding out in the world. So, further, coaches frequently include a purpose integration component at the end of a program, where they empower you to activate your purpose in every area of your life. The better coaches will help you land in a soulful or purposeful community so that you are supported ongoingly in fully activating your purpose. The best coaches offer a satisfaction guarantee, wherein they will keep working with you at no charge until you are completely satisfied. This investment is somewhere between $2,000 and $10,000 in 2022. So not everyone's got that. It's expensive. Again, I charge at the higher end when I work one-on-one with executives on that. But the results are profound. So where can you find these folks? You can find them at the globalpurposeleaders.org. That's an international community of practice, about 70, 75 folks. I co-founded it in 2000, let's call it 16, 17-ish. The True Purpose Institute, so I mentioned Tim Kelly. I really respect his body of work. I think it's the most applicable for a person in the global north or west, meaning it's more of a psychological framework, very linear progression, and I think it is probably where most folks should start. There's also the Animas Valley Institute, so Bill Plotkin, who's written prolifically on soul and purpose. That's more of like a nature immersed using vision quests or soul quests. And then Martha Beck's organization called Wayfinder. They've got trained folks to help you activate your purpose. I know less about them, but I hear they're very good. All right, so that's the one-on-one version. So number 2, work with a friend, colleague, or mentor. The benefit of working with a friend, colleague, or mentor who has completed the purpose journey is that they can provide inspiration, reflection, accountability, and support. And they often won't charge you for it. The downside is that they typically aren't able to attune to your unique development nor skillfully help you deal with the inner voices of resistance, nor integrate your purpose into each area of your life, nor help you find, craft a purposeful community so your purpose can grow roots. So it's not a bad, like, if you don't have the money, or like you just don't resonate with any of the purpose coaches guides, and you happen to know someone who's done a lot of purpose work, meaning they've been facilitated, not they say they know their purpose, but they've actually gone through a series of initiatory transformative experiences where they're rooted and embodied in their purpose. So again, that's someone who's an elder in the archetypal sense, like they're fully themselves. So they may or may not have access to exercises, so you can find purpose exercises for them to help you with. So there's four books I'm going to recommend out of the gate. One is the Purpose Field Guide that I wrote, or I should say I published back in 2019, and it's basically a 10-module purpose activation program. Then again, you can't do it alone. So the Purpose Field Guide is actually available as an ebook, but it's really a course. So there's videos, exercises, there's calls. So we've done this course live, so you can listen to the calls and kind of understand how other people are holding each exercise. There's also Finding Your Own North Star by Martha Beck. Very good book. I've done those exercises. True Purpose by Tim Kelly. I've already mentioned that one. Leading from Purpose by Nick Craig. That's really good for a business audience as well. And I'll just throw one more in here that I neglected to include, and that's for folks who lean a little bit more Eastern in their philosophy orientation. So meditators, yogis, New Age folks. You might also like The Four Desires by Rod Stryker. So it's like a Hindu influence kind of purpose pathway. Really great exercises. I've done them a few times now. All right, so that brings us to the third option, which is engage in a group purpose program. So the benefit of engaging in a purpose program with a community of fellow participants is that you can understand a great deal about how to activate your own purpose by learning from the experiences of your peers. Also, the group will hold you accountable to complete the exercises and share what you learn so the whole group can benefit. While not as effective as working one-on-one with a coach, groups offer great support in overcoming resistance to taking purpose-aligned action. If the group is optimized for diversity, you'll also expand your understanding of people from different backgrounds and begin to touch the deeper threads of our shared humanity. As we explored, after 25% of a community is purpose activated, purpose starts to become the cultural norm, wherein people are expected to fulfill their purpose and share their gifts with their community and turn to each other for guidance. So the program fees that you or your organization will pay to join a group purpose program are anywhere from $200 to $1,000. And that's $22. And so where to find these offerings? There's four. One is Unity Lab, so that's my company. This is really for enterprises. So Unity Lab and then Imperative, my former employer. For schools, I would look at NXU, it's letter N, XU Education, Project Wayfinder. For religious organizations, Richard Rohr's, the Center for Action and Contemplation. And then for individuals, the Animas Valley Institute. So other books to explore, books on purpose and soul. So my colleague Holly Wood's The Golden Thread, my previous book, Planet on Purpose, Regenerative Purpose by my friend and colleague Wendy May, Nature and the Human Soul by Bill Plotkin, Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Fate and Destiny by Michael Mead, Life Revision by my friend and colleague Anna Maria Aristobal, Care of the Soul by Thomas Moore, Widening Circles by Joanna Macy, and Ritual, The Power, Healing, and Community by Malidoma Patrice Sommet. So where to get support in activating your organization's purpose and values. So 3 folks I recommend: the True Purpose Institute consultants. So this is Tim Kelly's group. They've got the coaches, but then who do the one-on-one work, but then they also have consultants who've been trained to activate the purpose and values of an organization. Another great group is called the Barrett Values Center. It's more of a values-driven kind of organizational transformation. And then Future Search. So Future Search is like a 3-day process where you get everybody in the room and you develop a shared history, common concerns, common future, and then commitments. So that's a really powerful program too. So where to get support in evolving your organization's structures and processes to support purpose and belonging. So that's one thing we didn't talk about in the book. Chapter 6, I was just like, here, try this. But there's an emerging field of like, how do you actually govern and administer a purpose and belonging centric organization, a culture. So I would look at BCG Brighthouse for very large enterprises, DPMC for mid-sized businesses, and then the Foundation for Purposeful Organizations for small and medium-sized businesses. Each of these do the headpiece that supports the heart. And so where to find a community of purpose-oriented professionals? I would check out Kindred, so it's kindredmembers.com, Conscious Capitalism, and then Net Impact. And that concludes Appendix A, which is all things purpose, ecology, resources. So we're going to move into Appendix B, and this is for folks who get it, who are like, yes, we need to do social learning as the bedrock of how we develop people and culture. It's got to be central to wellness, learning and development, DEI, culture, talent, like all the things, right? Training, learning. So if you got that, you're like, yes, 100% I'm on board. This appendix is for you. So Appendix B, social learning journeys. Structuring learning experiences that are less than 25% content and exercises and more than 75% action and interaction is the key to changing beliefs and behaviors. To do this, we utilize the two most powerful liberating structures. Oh, my mouth is going. Structures. Purpose and values reflection, and sustained substantial, which means greater than 25% of the population, and safe interactions with a small group of diverse people. So anyone can create a social learning journey. All you need is a group of people with a shared commitment and a way to create small diverse groups of 3 to 6 peers. And a curriculum that invites self-reflection, self-disclosure in a discussion. As we've explored, the research suggests that programs with 5 to 6 small diverse group discussions are optimal. An easy way to play with this approach is to form a small diverse book club of 3 to 6 people and have 6 one-hour-long discussions using the reflection questions at the end of each chapter of this book as a guide. So in the way that I modeled pies as like, this is the embodiment of what it means to begin to stand for somebody's wholeness, their messiness, their fears, their spirit, their connection, their relationships. The book is also structured similarly. It's structured as a social learning program. So, yes, you can read each chapter like a book, you can listen to this like an audiobook, but you can also engage with this book as a course itself. So each of these chapter summaries are your discussion guides. So the 4 piece of the 4 parts of each summary and then the 4 reflection questions. That's your discussion guide. So you can do this right now. Like this book that you have in your hands or on your screen or your ears is essentially a social learning program. You can play with it right now. So to have maximum impact on retention, productivity, innovation, organizational commitment, and information transfer, consider making social learning the centerpiece of your culture, onboarding, wellness, L&D, and DEI approach, whereby your people embark on 3 journeys a year. So we talked about this already. Build 3 new sets of skills, develop 9 new diverse relationships. And this is especially important for new hires, new leaders, diverse employees, and employees from newly acquired companies. So what journeys make the most sense to enroll your teams in? As we've explored, activating purpose is one of the most liberating and rewarding journeys for both the individual and the organization. Because once purpose is activated, future programs, whether delivered in this way or not, and skills can be delivered in a way that is personally meaningful and organizationally impactful, because you've given that person the power to choose from their authentic self, as opposed to imposed upon from command and control. For example, Unity Lab's core programs follow a progression of developing purposeful employees, then teams, then leaders. So the first two journeys that we recommend are C3, which I've talked about briefly, and VAP, Values Activation Program. And those two empower your people to activate their purpose and align it with the organization's mission and values. The next two, TCP for Team Communication Program and EIA, Emotional Intelligence Accelerator, activate healthy team communication. And the last program, PLA, or Purposeful Leader Accelerator, builds the foundation of purpose-driven leadership. So if you choose, like, say, hire us, right, you'll get about approximately 2 years worth of programming out of the gate, and activate your whole organization to be great communicators, self-aware, self-reflective, activate their innovation, their productivity, their social emotional health. They're building all these great communication and leadership skills, and they're seeing your organization as a place where they can grow and become their best self, both personally and professionally. That's my invitation to y'all. So once these 5 are completed, you can develop other critical power skills, or leadership communication skills, via this same method. Again, work with us or don't. Such as integrative self-care, conflict resolution, creative intelligence, cultural intelligence, storytelling, boundary setting, and persuasion. So there's an open field what you can do once you activate somebody's purpose. So that concludes the appendices. I'm now going to zip back to the beginning and presence the acknowledgments, because I did not write this book by myself. Okay. Acknowledgments and gratitude. I want to thank the original caretakers of the land upon which I wrote this book, the Kumeyaay Nation. I thank my friends and colleagues who poured their hearts and minds into this book. I'm of the firm conviction that ideas do not arise in a vacuum, nor can they be attributed to any single person. They arise in dialogue, through generous reflection, sharing, and dissent of well-meaning people. As such, everything in this book is a result of thousands of hours of conversations that I've had with people who are smarter and better informed than I am. And the possibility of this, or as the possibility of this book emerged, I sent a chapter a week to over 30 experts and friends from fields such as psychology, leadership development, government, organizational development, wellness, DEI, economics, human development, education, history, healthcare, religion, politics, law, facilitation, sustainability, racial justice, manufacturing, corporate social responsibility, technology, peace, and reconciliation. I thank all of you for listening, reflecting, and responding. And a special thanks to Susan Lucci, B. Bocolandro, Bobby Bakshi, Ana Maria Aristabel, Jessica Grossmeyer, Paul Radoff, Robin Athey, Suzanne Clausen, Tim Ash, Stephanie Steidel, my wife, Ezra Bookman, and Lara Lee for rolling up their sleeves and beating the nonsense out of this work line by line. I also want to thank my friends, mentors, and communities that nurtured my personal and professional growth during the writing of this book. Special thanks to Lara Lee, Bobby Bakshi, Susan Lucci, Aaron Hurst, Maurice Ward, Dina Wiggins, Scott Crosby, Jeff Steyer, Stefan McKenzie, Charles Vogel, Jean-Michel Laragon, Pat Sandone, Paul Minifee, Eric Zimmerman, Robin Athey, Michael Turtis, Sam Clayton, Govinda Clayton, Matt Stillman, Ted Frelke, Andy Swindler, and the Showing Up for Racial Justice, which is Surge, Global Purpose Leaders, Mankind Project, Listen First, Google Vitality Lab, and Business for Good Communities. I want to thank Zach Mercurio and Siobhan Lindley, who allowed me to repurpose portions of the Purpose and Profits Roadmap paper we published together in 2019, and the numerous participants in Unity Lab programs who generously offered their feedback to make our programs more scalable and effective. I thank my Unity Lab team for their shared commitment to a more purposeful, just, equitable, and compassionate nation, and the hundreds of actions they take each day to make it so. No one deserves more credit than my co-founder, Heidi Holliday. Last and most, I thank my partner, Stephanie Steidel, for her love, care, and stand for this book and my work in general. My mind and heart have a hard time turning off from my purpose and work. And she's been incredibly understanding of my heartache and sleeplessness. I'm grateful for her personal and professional development, as it is a source of information for me. Well, yeah, but what's written here is a source of inspiration for me and makes it easy for me to clean up my careless mistakes and broken agreements. Her vision for our home has made it an incredible place to write, live, eat, love, rest, and rejoice. I thank her for allowing me to have the nice room for my office, which has allowed me, at considerable inconvenience to her, to write this book and engage in the hundreds of conversations with leaders, experts, and practitioners who shaped the ideas herein. We did it. Thank you. I'd love to continue this conversation with you in a book club to help you activate purpose and belonging in your organization, deliver a keynote or workshop. So please reach out. No one, as you know, we talked about before, we can't become ourselves by ourselves. Same with organizations. Your organization is not going to transform itself. It needs help. So look at Appendix A and get help, and or give me a buzz, and we'll do this together. Thank you so much. Please share this, and I wish you well in your journey.